So we'll give some time to the gathering and give some time to the settling. And in this, giving attention to this place, this experience, and in this gift of attention, this gift of care, reconnect with a sense of well-wishing, which certainly everyone here feels for everyone, and certainly you feel for yourself. Life feels for itself. And reconnecting with that generosity, with that care, with that well-wishing, in this welcoming. And this allowing, releasing the worries, releasing the regrets, releasing the baggage carried into the present from the past, releasing the sense of regret, sense of sadness over the past. And not picking up the worry or the concern for the future. And this gift of attention in the present. So how is it? How is this experience in this body, here and now? The connection with the ground, with the sense of persistence that this body gives us so clearly. And the sense of the energy of this, the space, or the way that it fills, the shape of it. Where does it energetically begin and end? And into this, giving to this. As the sense of the body begin and end. Skin, the area around the skin, energetic experience. A response, release. Release of worry, expectation, hope. The sensitivity of this experience of life. This given experience. Noticing what is particularly strong in one's experience now. Noticing the context in which it occurs. Noticing the silence and the space around it. Notice the noticing. And resting in this welcoming. Resting in this trust. And stillness, allowing the sensitivity. And stillness. The edge. This moment. and gratitude, accepting this gift, this life. And confidence that this experience of life is this. This breath. The in-breath is like this, received. The out-breath released and given, and again totally accepted. The universe does not reject your out-breath. It's like this. A stillness in the posture, a stillness. You're not rigid. A stillness in sensitivity.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Let's now request a Dhamma talk from Luang Por. Ko Kakak. Ratma Chaloka Dipati Sahampati Kata Jati Hivara Ayachatha Sati Dasata Paraja Kajatika Dese Dhamma Anugam Pimang Pajan.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sangham namasami. Some of these traditional ways of doing things can seem in different ways by different people, but recently I've been reflecting that some aspects of them are a way of reaffirming and really practicing samadhi. It's a big theme of mine, samadhi. It's a strange because it's so fundamental to the path, and so you have this request, traditional request from Brahma Sahampati that maybe there are some beings with little dust in their eyes who can, so please teach the Dhamma. And this is a reminder to us that maybe there are beings that can teach. There are beings that have realized liberation is possible, and this view, this assumption, this confidence is to be practiced. It's to be practiced, and that is part of samadhi. Now, samadhi is some confidence that in that there are the results of good actions, there are the results of skillful actions, that if there is the generosity, kindness, speech that's truthful and helpful and supportive, and communication that builds up, and that the efforts of one's life do support that that there's these skillful actions will have good results, and that this is something that we have been given the opportunity through the fact that this being is born. And then there are things that we don't understand, that we don't really know how things work. There are beings that we maybe don't really have a perspective on. And that there are beings that have realized and that can teach us. And this basic request for, please teach, is a practice of samadhi. One may think, well, it's just a traditional Thai way of doing things, or a traditional whatever it is way of doing things. But it's actually a wisdom practice. And it's useful, I feel, to just acknowledge that these things that we take for granted can be used to reflect on the practice. Sorry, the practice of the first step on the path. And yes, insight into the Four Noble Truths is liberating. But even in the simple request of may there be some teaching, there is the understanding that there is dukkha. and that's part of the insight into the Four Noble Truths, is it not? It's part of the realization of arahants that there is dukkha, it is to be understood, and it has been understood. And in a simple request for teaching, there is inherent in that the sense of there is dukkha. I'd like to understand it, and I understand that much. And that, as a practice, is the practice of samadhi. And in listening and receiving some teachings of any kind, in this sense of generosity that I really bang on about, the sense of generosity is an immediate relinquishment of the cause of further dukkha, because in the practice of generosity, in the practice of giving, in that actual moment of giving, there's no sense of inadequacy that needs something or needs to get rid of anything, because if in the sense of giving, there is enough, and there's the release of the cause of further dukkha. So in that sense, again, you're practicing samadhi. So don't feel just in the practice of generosity, I'm not practicing, it's just a basic practice, I have to practice generosity. No, you're actually practicing samadhi also. If you can actually appreciate that in the giving, the cause of suffering is to be relinquished, and has been relinquished, has been abandoned. And in the giving of something, you're not holding on to it, you're abandoning it, you give. You're not looking for something back, you're not making an exchange, you're not making a bargain, you're not looking for a profit. The act of generosity is in that sense a relinquishment of the cause of further suffering. And that is part of the Four Noble Truths. That happens, there's a recognition that in holding on to something, you're making more suffering. So the relinquishment is the practice of understanding dukkha, relinquishing the cause, and then also in that moment you realize something. Where does dukkha end? Where does adding to stress end? Where does adding to stress end? it ends with letting go. No, it ends where there's no holding on. There's no sense of it's where where the feeling is neutral, where the experience is not one way or the other. A neutral experience, when it's fully known, is really, really happy, because it's not seeking to get or to get rid of. Now, the biggest neutral feeling is the sense of neutral experience. Neutral Vedana is Nibbana. And knowing a neutral Vedana is actually extremely happy, extremely pleasant, it's peaceful. And in the basic practice of something, to allow it to be, the Four Noble Truths are related to in the right way, or in the way that is noble, in the way that is worthwhile and gives value, because you've got the recognition of dukkha, the abandoning of the cause, the realization of the cessation, and the practice of the path in something as simple as, I'd like to pay attention. I'd like to give attention to a talk, and that it's not. Don't knock it. That's what I'm saying. Is don't think that it's just something that is petty or in some sense just some sort of ritual. It is a ritual, but it's a form that goes back to the Lord Buddha. Come on, Brahma Sahapati did his seat did get warm, and he did he did go and request the Lord Buddha to teach, and and then even as something as simple as Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, which many of you have recited since you can talk. Some recited, for many years. That even that is also a practice, can be used as a practice of samadhi, because you got the recognition that my hero is the Lord Buddha. There are beings that have realized and can teach. And that's part of samadhi. And to the degree to which there's samadhi is the degree to which the rest of the path is possible. Then the rest of the path is more open. The intentions, the action, the speech, the actions can all flow from that. So I just like to preface whatever Dhamma talk I might give today with that encouragement to you. I hope for you that have practiced just saying Namo Tassa many times, and for those of you that feel, well, it's maybe just an older superstition and I don't need to do that, I just need to know the true Dhamma and get straight to it, then, and all of this ritual is just then do find ways of using the tools that we have so that they bring blessings to the life. So that there's the cultivation of blessings in the life. And then the cultivation of blessings, don't worry too much about the result. just keep cultivating, and because there's something so incredibly uncertain about life. It's just so uncertain, and it's so fragile. It's really, really not sure. No, as so many people, both, stories that you've heard, people that you know, and then things you might read or hear about, or things, and you think, gosh, this body is actually, incredibly fragile. It might last 100 years if it doesn't break down in some way or another. But even within that, it might last 120 if it's an under. But it's not. It's a funny old thing that one's carrying around. Or that's carrying us around, this sort of strange sack that has a sort of internal frame that's a bit wobbly. We think that the skeleton is somehow solid. Well, the skeleton is reasonably solid, but it's also not sure. It's got its own bendiness and its own delicacy. And it can break, and then all sorts of things can happen to it. And then the meat sack that hangs off it, and it is, it's a meat sack. It's very, very strange. It's this, and it has this incredible way of working. It takes this stuff in, and then it lets it out, more or less. Sometimes, some things it lets in and lets out quite quickly, which is the breath. That works like this, the breath, and then this stuff goes in through here, and then it goes down into these things down here, and then just recently there's been somebody we know has had a whole sort of lung sort of business, 16 hours of operation, and the bits that come out of it, how the lungs work is a whole. It's a strange bloody mess in there, and it's only this, it's only skin deep away from leaking. And then this is what we carry, and this is what we give such importance to. Then that's just the lungs. Come on, and the air is actually quite okay. It breathes in and breathes out. Yeah, it goes through the mouth, and through the throat. So sometimes you get this sort of. Sometimes it stinks because of what it goes past as it comes out. You get bad breath and that sort of stuff, and then you got this thing here that sort of, and this bit that does all this thing with the sounds and stuff. And this is, but it's so delicate. It's so delicate. Now, there's a lot that can go wrong, and it will go wrong one way or another. It's not a sure thing. And then eating. Now that's weird. How come people eat? they stuff in their mouths, and then they chew it. Wow, what's this about? Something that you have this idea that it's so wonderful, this meal that's been prepared, and then you've maybe paid a lot of money for, even, or maybe you've prepared it well for somebody else, and you put it inside. I really want you to enjoy this. And what do they do with it? They put it in their mouth and mash it up. It doesn't look beautiful then, does it? This wonderful thing that you've prepared for somebody, it looks a mess. If they spat it out after a few mouthfuls, what would you do with it? It's weird, this way this body works. And it's useful to just reflect and see things in a different light. It's not one thing's right or one thing's wrong, but just to allow the sense of sensitivity to be that much wider, that much more flexible. Just putting things in the mouth. And then you sort of hope sometime it's going to come out. and then when it does come out, what does it look like? And what does it smell like? You don't put that on a plate. It's this reflection to really, and it's all things can go wrong, but it is marvelous that it does work. It's absolutely stunning that it does work. Now that somehow or another, things that are pretty much out of your control somehow allow all this to happen, and then somehow allow this possibility of acting upon intentions. This is extraordinarily strange. And this acting upon intentions is where there's freedom, because one can notice that this is where there's most power, and humans have this power to act upon intentions. And this is the practice again, sorry, going back to practicing the Eightfold Path. It's practicing intentions of not indulging the senses, not indulging the sense of, particularly the sense of self. No, we have the five senses, of course, but and those are the ones that are really talking about just using these as ways of just milking them for pleasure. And in any combination, sight, sounds, touch, this and this indulging in the tastes and that. So you do, like milking things. It's they work. Sense impression works because it gives that sense of connection and separation to consciousness. And the senses themselves work as the doors by which they work. This is the way that the mechanism, but not indulging the senses, not acting on ways just to harm. And of course, the strange thing about indulging the senses is that it's actually a type of self-harm. And because it's actually not helpful to the body to actually indulge the senses. It doesn't help them be more sensitive. It doesn't help life. Indulgence in the senses is a type of self-harming. Of course, what it is comes from the sense of, gosh, this thing is alive. This thing has sensitivity. This thing can receive. And then that's the sort of basic response of life. Sensitivity is life. If things aren't sensitive, they're not alive. So the start of life is sensitivity, and then the human bit of it, or the response to life that humans have most control over, is the response to life. What you do from this life, from this sensitivity. And the combination of the two is what being alive is. It's receiving experience and then responding to it. And it's given. It's given. The receiving is given, the life is given, and then the response is where we have freedom. And or we can cultivate freedom, because we can say, well, not indulging, not harming oneself or others. So you're not going out to harm, and then not dwelling in hatred. So that the sense of the way that we hatred, criticism that is just going on in the head, oneself or others. Self-criticism is a big deal, and the bullying that happens here is a big deal. This is not good enough, and I should be doing this, and then you make mistakes. I should really train my knee to be better, so I'm going to overtrain it. It's a way of what one dwells in. And then so to come back to the sense of it's okay, really wish myself well. The criticisms that one does actually have behind all of those, everything that you notice is wrong is because you wish it well. And really behind all the sense of criticism that you have of everybody and yourself is because you wish they were better, because really you wish that they were all enlightened and you wish yourself was enlightened. It would just make your life so much easier. And behind that, there is the sense of may all beings be well. May I be well, may others be well. And if you notice that, and it's okay, I can do this, then there's a sense of ease and a neutral experience. It's not dwelling in hatred, not dwelling in the sense of being overwhelmed or inadequate in some way. And do act and be a good friend, and ask for support and friendship when things don't go your way, or don't go the way that you want them to do, or just change in some way or another. Because you wish beings well, but things don't always work out like that. You wish all beings be free from all suffering, but then things happen that you feel, oh dear, this was not what was really called for. And then the sense of, I don't know what to do. The sense of, how can I know whether I'm doing enough? And this sort of sense of almost doubt about, what is all this about? Why is this happening? And breath, a sense of, okay, I can, if this is happening, I can endure it, because I am enduring it. There's nothing unendurable. And yet, in this, it's the nature of things to be uncertain, beings to die from unexpected things, and diseases and troubles to come from one thing or another. Some are karmic, some are not karmic, some are just accidents. Some of the society, when there's no harmony, is bound to be caught in war and terrible, and disharmony and trouble. And society, when there's no basic respect, is going to be like this, however it is. And what we can do about it, I've got no idea. You've heard the story of Ajahn Chah, who was asked when he heard about when people were telling him about what was happening in Cambodia in the 70s. He just said, I don't have the wisdom to really answer this. And, briefly, Luang Por Vajiro in the recent troubles was about, when there's no harmony in society, what can you expect other than war? When there's no basic respect for people and concern for people, this is how it's going to be. And all one can deal with is this moment, this being within one's own heart. It's not. There's not. This is the limitation that we deal with. This present here now. And this is where we do have freedom. Freedom to notice the neutral, to give attention, to reflect, to know the no dukkha, abandon the cause, realize the cessation, and practice the path. And this is the best we can do. This is the limitation that we live with, and the upekkha that we can practice, the serenity we can practice. So from this serenity, there's the possibility of appreciation of any goodness, any kindness, appreciation of life and the freedom that we do experience, sense of gratitude for another moment now that is safe and okay, because we don't know what the next moment's going to bring. We never know. This fragility of this body is like this. The fragility of this life, it's just a breath away. And then from that, then there's what can we do, how can we act when we appreciate there is suffering, there is pain. And to do what we can to relieve that pain and suffering, both within our own hearts and in the hearts of others, physically, mentally, whatever way we can. And not dwell in aversion, or with a sense of welcoming, which is what metta is, a sense of welcoming, a sense of kindness. So that's a way of reflecting on the basic practice, samadhi, samasankappa, the Brahma Viharas that come from that. And then I offer that for your consideration, just a brief introduction, and then I'll see if I can answer the questions that you may ask. So, evam.
Annamayang Dhammakataya Sadhukarang Dadamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
Thank you so much, Luang Por. So, brothers and sisters, we'd now like to welcome you to join us in the Q&A session. Please feel free to click on the raise hand button. We'll invite you to unmute. If you like, you can also type your question onto the chat and read it out to Luang Por. Anyone? Any questions, comments, reactions?
Too confusing. We have about an hour, is that right? An hour and a half?
For
Or an hour?
Q&A, yeah, another half an hour, Luang Por.
Another half hour? Whatever we've got, you just keep me in line.
Okay, we have
Bhante Dhammo from Ukraine.
That's right, Bhante. Welcome back. Bhante, are you there? Yes.
Yeah. I'm here. Namaskaram, Arjan.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Very big thanks for your Dhamma Desana. And I have some small question you mentioned about Vedana. And yes, we are talking about 3 types of feelings: pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, and neutral feeling. And can you please explain in what sense neutral should be understood here? So is it equivalent to equanimity in some way? Thank you.
Okay, so the basic response of sensitivity is either towards or away. Either towards or away. There's 2 types of Vedana, Sukha and Dukkha. And then in many suttas they say Sukha Vedana, Dukkha Vedana, neither Dukkha nor Sukha Vedana, which is often translated as neutral. Yes? It's actually neither Dukkha nor Sukha is how the Pali goes. And I think in English they translate it usually as neutral. But then the suttas also say that this neutral Vedana, if it's known, it's pleasant. And if it's not known, if it's known, it's Sukha. And if it's not known, it's Dukkha. Okay? So the basic response of Vedana is a response towards or away. Upekkha is something different. It's nothing to do with, well, it is to do with Vedana, but it's not. Vedana at its basic is either Sukha or Dukkha. And then neutral, neither Sukha nor Dukkha. If it's not known, the tendency is to move away from it. It's like you don't know what's happening. And the tendency for basic response to things is if you don't know it, is to move away from it. We don't tend to move towards the unknown. We're a bit frightened of the unknown, basically. If we don't know a sensation, if we don't know what it is, then we tend to move away from it. But a Vedana, which is neither Dukkha nor Sukha, if it's really known, the tendency is to go towards it because it's peaceful. Actually, what we don't notice, if we don't, in basic, no, in the sensations of the body, okay? We're talking about Dukkha and Sukha Vedana just in the body. Sukha Vedana in the body, we tend to go towards, because we want to get it more of it. We like Sukha Vedana, we don't like Dukkha Vedana. Dukkha Vedana, we tend to go away. Neutral Vedana in the body is neither Dukkha nor Sukha. Okay? But if one knows Vedana in the body, which is neither Dukkha nor Sukha, the tendency actually is to go towards it because it's more peaceful. Yeah, because the thing about Sukha Vedana, yes, one tends to move towards it. But if it's just Sukha Vedana, then there's also the concern that it might shift. So you can add dukkha, but neutral Vedana, if we go towards it, it's actually safe. That's why I really stress knowing neutral Vedana, because actually if you go towards it, it's actually a safe and peaceful place to go. Does that help a bit? BuddhaDhamma? Because I think the concern is that neutral Vedana is some sort of third Vedana. It's not. It's not. It's in the sutras, it's not described as a third Vedana. Ultimately, yes, there are 108 types of Vedana, because you've got Sukha, Dukkha, and Adsukha, Adukkha, okay? Neutral Vedana. And then you've got an internal, you've got 6 sense spaces, so you've got 18. You've got internal and external, which makes you 36. Yeah? Internal and external Vedana. And then you've got past, present, and future, which gets you up to 108.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got 108 types of Vedana. Yeah, which is why you've got 108 little things on your things. But actually, you can count all those 108 types of Vedana into just 2, towards or away. Yeah, and that's the binary thing, the binary response to life. There's either a going towards or away from it. That's the binary response. And if it's neutral, the way that the sutras describe it is that there's a tendency to move away from it if one doesn't know it, and move towards it if one knows it. So Vedana is actually a very simple mechanism in the way that I understand it. Upekkha is wonderful. It's part of recognizing limitation. It's part of serenity. It's part of sensitivity, because it's supremely sensitive but unshaken. The strange thing about upekkha is that it's sensitive unshakability. Most of the time we think of unshakability as something really firm and solid and rooted. Well, that's not sensitive. It's just stuck. Yeah? And it did, because it doesn't move, it's not. Whereas upekkha, if it works well, it oversees the other 3 Brahma Viharas. Yeah? Is the sensitivity of noticing the beautiful, which is mudita. Yeah? Noticing the beautiful and rising to the sense of the beautiful. That's mudita. Joy at goodness, appreciation. Part of that is gratitude. Yeah? That noticing of the goodness is mudita. And then if that's possible, fine. It's joyful. It's joyful. And if there's noticing of things that are wrong, then there's or things that are suffering, then the response is karuna, which is the response of acting in a way to relieve suffering now and in the future. It's doing something that relieves suffering now and in the future. It's an active thing, karuna. It's making spaces, it's making structures, it's doing stuff. And the Buddha was the supreme karuna because he gave us the structure of the Dhamma Vinaya, the structure of thought and the structure of action. Yeah? That's the supreme compassion of the Buddha. And then then you see you've got the last one is metta. Yeah? If one can't act from karuna, then the last one acts is metta, which is not pushing away, which is why metta and upekkha are sometimes confused a bit, because upekkha is serenity and metta is complete acceptance. No, it's not dwelling in aversion. It's not trying to make things different or anything. The thing about karuna is that it requires panya. That's why they say, wisdom and compassion fly together. They're the two, it requires wisdom. And of course, the Lord Buddha was supremely compassionate and supremely wise, which is why he offered us the tools for the end of suffering. Does that help? The difference between upekkha and neutral Vedana. Does that help? A little bit. No?
Yes, a little bit, but to say honestly, I do not think in this way. And why I asked, because actually what I see from people, from practice of many people, that very often people used to mix up these two definitions, this two notion, and they very often take this neutral feeling as an equanimity, and it leads them to some kind of indifference, sometimes to laziness in practice. Yeah. But this feeling, from my point of view, the same strong. And when people's mind go to this state, like neutral state, it tends to stick there, like in unconsciously, So something like that.
Yeah. The danger of equanimity's near enemy is indifference. Yeah, each of the Brahma Viharas have near enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they called near enemies or what happens if they go slightly wrong. Yeah, metta, if it goes slightly wrong, goes into just too much indulgence. Ajahn Chah used to say it makes babies. Karuna, if it goes slightly wrong, goes into just pity and feeling sorry for yourself and feeling sorry for things, without actually doing anything about it. Mudita goes wrong if it goes up to hilarity and too much joy. The joy at success. An example of mudita going completely wrong is when the fans at a football stadium go crazy when their team wins. Yeah, it's joy at success, but it's over the top. Yeah, it's mudita, but it's joy at success, but it's not safe. The opposite of metta is dwelling in hatred. The opposite of karuna is being cruel. The opposite of mudita is jealousy and envy. It's useful to know what the opposites are because you can see that they're exactly the same energy.
Right.
Yeah, it's noticing pain and wanting to cause more pain. Yeah, is the opposite of metta, of karuna. Noticing noticing something that's beautiful and then getting jealous and envious of it is the opposite of metta. Yeah. And so it's got a far enemy and a near enemy. And upekkha, the opposite of upekkha is just being flustered all the time and having no stability. And the near enemy is indifference and insensitivity. And that's a near enemy. It's called a near enemy because it's close, but it's not got it wrong. Yeah? And it's like mudita's, joy at success, but getting overexcited about it. Yeah. So it's a near enemy of mudita. Does that help a bit? So you can say the people who get stuck in indifference, you got stuck in a near enemy. You're getting there, but you got it wrong.
I see.
You've gone into numbness or insensitivity. The point of neutral experience is to give you more sensitivity and more resilience in the neutrality.
I see.
Yeah. Does that make more sense?
Yes.
Aso kang virajang kemang. Yeah, the last, of the Mahamangala Sutta.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Aso kang virajang kemang.
Thank you, BuddhaDhamma.
Thank
It was
you.
very helpful. Thank you very much. Namaskar, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Very best wishes.
Up.
Wonderful.
Jenny
Jenny.
in the USA.
Yes, Jenny. Jenny has a question. Go ahead, Jenny.
Thank you, Ajahn. I just really appreciate your. Can you hear me? I can't talk.
I can hear you, Jenny. Yeah.
I really appreciate your teaching and just your whole presence. It's really, really helpful. So my guess my question is, especially when you were talking about the Brahma Viharas, the whole thing about whether compassion is active or passive. I teach the Dharma, and I also teach secular mindfulness, but I also have encounters with friends. When you see suffering and you think there's something in the Dharma that we could offer that would be helpful, but I've also heard we're not supposed to actively preach the Dharma, to those that don't request it. And so I'm always sitting with that. Part of it I look at as my right speech practice. That, is this necessary? Is this helpful? Is the recipient willing to receive it? But it's a constant dilemma because you see so much suffering. It's like, oh, if they could only understand this. It's, so then I just have to sit with my pain, so have I answered my own question? Is it all just about knowing when to speak and when not to? We're not supposed to be evangelical, but we're not, but we should offer the teachings when it feels helpful. So I just sit with that all the time. I was just wondering how you work with that.
Yeah, I don't, one has to recognize one's going to get things wrong. And that's part of it, and it's not, one's going to misstep. And even if one does try to help, it's going to be some people are going to like it, some people are going to dislike it. So what you offer is going to be, you can't control what you do once you've given it. Once you've given it what you give, what they do with it is up to them. Some people will like it and some people won't. So that you have to be clear about. That patience is really helpful because that just slows it a bit. When somebody's had something really disastrous happen to them and you think, oh, they would just really benefit from the Dhamma, and you have to think, well, what is the right way and what is the right time to do this? For some people, it depending on how close you are and how much confidence you have in them. Now, part of it is having some confidence in them. You can usually be a bit more patient if you have some confidence that they'll work it out. Come on. And I don't really need to interfere so much right now. Can I just leave it a day and just see if I can find the right words tomorrow, or rather the right time or the right way of doing it? And sometimes that can help. Just giving it a little bit of space and not jumping in, unless they actually say, please help, and then you can do it. And then, because it's not actually words that often help most, it's example, and how you deal with the pain in your own life. Because if you don't have any pain, you're an extremely lucky person. It's going to be how you deal with that is going to be how how much confidence your friends have if they approach you. Yeah, that's going to be that's going to be what they will really look to, rather than the book that you've given them. Which, read this should help you. and that's sometimes the worst thing you can do to somebody. Sometimes it isn't, sometimes it is, but depending on if they've asked for it, but it's more, your actions in your daily life that people will then say, well, how did you cope with that when you found that? And if you explain, well, when that happened to me, then this is what I did. And I can offer that. I've got no idea what you should do. It's part of it, because how you are is going to be, how you are is different from how I am. And, I can offer this is how I do it, but how you do it, it's going to be how you do it. And Jenny, how you deal with this, I don't know. I can just say, recently somebody had something really tragic happen to them. And I really, really wanted to say something immediately. And I thought, they're actually okay. They are mature enough. I'll wait. And I didn't, I didn't just jump in on the phone. I just held it for a bit and then wrote the best I could in a way that I thought was not going to be intrusive, not going to be demanding on them so they could pick it up or not pick it up. And then see how it worked out. And I've got no idea. And so it's things are offered rather than demanded. If I demand you understand me, I demand that you really stop suffering. You're going to suffer because you're going to think I'm making you up. You're going to think I'm making him upset because I'm still suffering. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not, it's not going to work. Sorry. Does that help a bit, Jenny?
Yeah, it does, and that's probably my biggest thing is it's because I feel, I'm suffering with their suffering. And what I need to do is just be present with it and then wait for the wisdom to come. Patience is not one of my best virtues.
I think all of us, can, patience is supreme austerity.
Yeah.
Kanti paramang tapo titika. Yeah. And it's an austerity, and we don't, it's a relinquishment, the sense of I can be patient right now. I can endure this now. Because if I'm experiencing this, I can endure it. There's nothing I can't endure, because if I'm experiencing it, I am enduring it. Even if I think I can't endure it, in the moment, I am enduring it. And I recognize that for people who are in constant pain. People who have some chronic pain, their endurance is amazing because they can't get out of the pain. So they recognize they have to endure it, and they can't go into I can't endure it because they are enduring it. And sometimes, that's very inspiring. I don't wish constant pain on anybody, except that probably we all are experiencing some sort of pain at some level, but we don't even know it. Yeah, and we are enduring it.
Yeah, that's really helpful to remember. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jenny. So there's a question here, Luang Por. It's on the chat. It's from Kay.
Kay, can you kindly explain how to achieve Samma Samadhi for someone whose mind is always talking? Oh. I breathe a lot over this because there's a strangeness about this, because certainly Samma Samadhi is described as the 4 jhanas in the scriptures. And I breathe a bit because I'm a bit defeated over this whole question of what is samadhi and what is jhana. And Kamala, if you can post up the link to what you don't know about jhana and samadhi, I'd be grateful, because it's a good little booklet, and it's free, and you can download it. And I think it gives some perspective on jhana and samadhi, which is less fraught. And first jhana, okay? Vitaka, vichara, piti, sukha, ekagata. Okay? 5 factors of first jhana. Vitaka, vichara, that's actually thinking. It's initial and applied thought. It's picking something up and examining it. It's picking it up and looking and examining it. Vitaka, vichara. Yeah? And so don't worry about it. I tend to not use the term concentration, partly because people, there are ways of just focusing the mind on one thing, and that's a bit like doing press ups or exercise or something. But you can strain yourself, and people do. And you can blank everything out. That's also possible. But when the Buddha described the jhana that was underneath the rose up, underneath the tree when he was watching his father plowing, it was much more gentle than that. And maybe I just mislead people, and I apologize if I do, but I find it much more helpful to recognize that the Samma Samadhi is something about continuity of attention, continuity of practice. In the booklet that you've got a PDF of now, if you've downloaded it already from the chat, it's got references that have books that explain where in the suttas the Buddha taught about jhana and samadhi and how that relates to the sotapanna, sakadagami, anagami, arahant practice. So it's worth having a look at those, just to give you a different perspective on it. So what I would encourage you is not worrying about your mind always talking. Notice what's not talking, because if your mind is talking, if you feel your mind is always talking, there is that which knows that, and that's not talking. What's not thinking? And, with that sort of, what the other description of the jhanas is absence of the 5 hindrances. And, part of, in the Satipatthana Sutta, you practice Satipatthana, mindful, the foundations of mindfulness, and you practice the Dhammanusati. And the first thing you come across is understanding the 5 hindrances. So you turn the 5 hindrances into Dhammas, and you practice Sammasati by knowing how the 5 hindrances work, where they come from, what feeds them, and where they end. And you do that by using the factors of enlightenment, which are the next aspect of the Satipatthana, by investigating, by being aware of what's happening, being aware of the 5 hindrances, and then investigating them. Yeah, which is the practice of the Bojjhangas, the factors of enlightenment. So you've got a way of turning these things into something that you can work with. You can work with the 5 hindrances, and you can pick them up, investigate them. Yeah, you can vitaka vichara and have fun investigating them. Yeah, have rapture investigating. Be happy that you are investigating them, and have a continuity of that. So you turn the hindrance into an object of samadhi. you turn your muck into manure and use it to cultivate. Yeah. So you don't need to worry too much about stuff and thinking, I have to get my mind calm so that I can practice samma samadhi. Samatha vipassana, they're two sides of exactly the same thing. The mind has to be calm in order to see what's going on. And in order to see what's going on, the mind has to be calm. Yeah? So you see what's going on, so they're two sides of the same thing. Samatha vipassana are not two different practices. Yes, they are, but no, they're not. True but not right, right but not true. It's different ways of looking at it. It's the same thing. Yeah? Is it two people looking at each other in silhouette, or is it a white vase? It's the same thing. Yeah? It's not different. So I hope that helps. And don't worry about me achieving it. That's always going to be disappointing.
Luang Por, I think she has a follow-up question.
Okay, you mean it's okay to vitaka vichara your nirvanas? Yes. 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 Yeah. Yeah, pick them up and examine them. Figure out where they come from, where they go to, and sustain that attention. Like, not so much in thought, so much, but you can actually oh, where do I feel doubt? Where do I feel this restlessness? How does this restlessness work? And then, before you actually start to try to label it, just give attention. Because when you give attention, you're not labeling, actually. You are vitaka vichara, but with almost before thought, before thinking about it. So you can actually shift it that way. Yeah? Because you give attention to this stuff. So you're not, if you say to yourself, I'm going to give attention to this restlessness just until it goes away, you're going to always be stuck in anger about it. Yeah? You're not going to notice where it ends already. I hope that helps. So yeah, pick it up and examine it.
Do we have any more questions on the floor? Yes, we do.
Yes, thank you, Ajahn, for your teachings today. And in particularly, I wanted to hear if you can share a bit more when you share that Ajahn Chah, if I heard correctly, when he was asked about the situation in Cambodia, he said, I don't have the wisdom. For me today, it was precious to hear that, right?
Yeah,
That we don't have the wisdom. Yeah.
This is what I heard. I mean, I wasn't there and I wasn't present. So this is just either what I've heard or what I've read. And you know, it's relevant whenever there's conflict and troubles in the world, I feel. I don't, you know, people say, well, what should I do about what's happening in Cambodia? And Cambodia was pretty rough. You know, it was not a pleasant place to be at that time. And I just don't know. I don't know what to do. I mean, what I like to also reflect on is even the Lord Buddha couldn't stop his own clan getting wiped out by Jatasattu. Yeah, you know, there are limitations as to what somebody can do about what happens. And thinking that somehow I have to know all the answers. No, you can give the platitude, hatred never ended by hatred. But that's a bit of a platitude sometimes, but it's also true. It's also true, but how things are going to work out. You know, as long as there's lack of harmony, there's going to be conflict. And it's difficult to get harmony. You know, it's difficult. It's something one actually has to work out. There's ways in the Sangha to work at it. There's ways in the thing to work at it. But yeah, there are limitations as to what I can do.
But if I may, what I'm aware in my own practice is that when even the acknowledgement, I don't have the wisdom to know what to do, or however, begins to ignite an energy of despair, right? Because of so much.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I should have the wisdom. What you're going into is I should have the wisdom to know what to say and do.
Or how can this be happening, and on and on and on, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, but also there's something that recognizes that this has always been the way. You know, I can certainly I wish that all beings were enlightened, because I'm a selfish bodhisattva, because it would make my life easier. You know, it would, if everybody was enlightened, then I wouldn't have to be enlightened. It would, but I know that it's not possible. Now, that we can imagine what the world would be like if everybody kept the first precept for a day.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Consciously said, you know, that there is that communication skills nowadays that we could communicate to everybody. Tomorrow we decide all to keep the first precept for one day. That would be amazing. You know, the world would change, particularly if we said, you know, we're going to keep the first precept for a week, even on the level of not killing human beings. Now that would be stunning. That would change the planet. You know, my particular bugbear is I would really like everybody to keep the second precept indefinitely, because then I wouldn't have to lose any passports or any keys. Because there wouldn't need to be any passports and keys, because I do forget my passports and forget my keys. So, but I recognize that I better keep my shares in Chubb and password managers, because it's not going to happen. You know, it's the way that the world is, that it's going to be this way.
Yeah.
Nothing that I can really do about it. Yeah. And it's all, you know, it's not to belittle or to, I would just not, I'm really glad that I'm not having to deal with it directly, because I have no idea how to deal with all the conflicts in the world. And there are enough. There are enough that are headlines, and there are enough that are not headlines, frankly. There are conflicts going on that we don't have a lot of information about. And that's another whole story which I don't know about.
True.
Yeah.
True. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have one final question from anyone from the floor? We have time for one final question. Well, it looks like we're all good, Luang Por.
Okay. So I think Peter said there wanted to be some sort of forgiveness ceremony. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So we want to take this opportunity that this is close to the end of Vassa in 2 weeks. And many of us here from the worldwide community has been tuning into this series of the Vassa teachings. And we've been very, very grateful and appreciative of all the very senior monks, senior teachers who have come to this forum, this platform, to engage with us, to help us with our practice, and as well as to encourage us. And we want to take this opportunity now as a worldwide community to ask forgiveness from Luang Por Vajiro, because some of us may not be able to do that in person, and to take this opportunity to also reconnect with him with our hearts. So with that, my friend Darren will lead us in the chanting, and on behalf of everybody, I'll be holding up a piece of rope as a symbolic gesture.
With asking for forgiveness, it's an interesting thing, because in Buddhism, the way that we ask for forgiveness is like a saying, it's in asking for forgiveness, one's giving the opportunity to relinquish the cause of further suffering. Because we recognize that in any interaction with anybody, there's going to be things that are not optimal and are going to lead to some tension and some friction. This is the nature of contact. There's going to be some sort of friction, and some things are going to go wrong. So in asking for forgiveness, what we're giving the opportunity for is the practice of relinquishing the cause for further suffering. Well, because we're giving up holding anything forward. We're saying, may whatever karma has been made, good or bad, be a hosi karma, may it lead to the end of all suffering. May it be part of that. So that's what the asking for forgiveness ceremony is about. And if one asks for forgiveness from somebody, there's only one response. The response is always, I forgive you, please also forgive me. That's the only response. There is no other response. There's not, oh, I don't know whether I want to forgive you. Okay, I forgive you, but it was all okay, really. I did nothing wrong. It's always the other way, so that everybody has a chance to let go and realize the end of suffering. That's what the asking for forgiveness is about. Thank you.
So brothers and sisters, before we ask for forgiveness, let us pay respect to Luang Por by bowing 3 times first. First bow. Second bow. And then third bow. Now let's stay in a bowing position and chant along with me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Mahadere pamadena dwaratayena katam sabbang aparadhang kamatuno phante. Mahadere pamadena dwaratayena katam sabbang aparadhang kamatuno phante. Mahadere pamadena dwaratayena katam sabbang aparadhang kamatuno phante.
Please also forgive me for whatever I might have done by body, speech, or mind, intentionally or unintentionally, in public or in private, that has in any way harmed you or in any way hindered your complete awakening. I forgive you. Please also forgive me. Aham kamami tumhe hippi me kamitabang.
Amama phante.
Ichitang patitang tumhang kipang meva samichatu sabde purentu sankapa chando panaraso yatamani chotiraso yata sapityo vivachantu sabaroko vinasatu madhe bhavatwantarayo sukhitikayo ko bhava abhivadana sile sanichang udhapachahino Jataro Dhamma Vadanti Ayuano Sukhang Balang.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu phante. Let's pay respect by 3 bows. First bow. Second bow. Third bow.
Thank you, Luang Por.
Okay.
So now before we close, we now to invite Luang Por to lead us in the verses of sharing an aspiration, please.
In English.
Yes, please, Luang Por.
Now let us chant the verses of sharing an aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease and all harmful states of mind until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Right, so to thank Luang Por, let us now close by paying homage to Triple Gem. Araham Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Avivademi. Swagato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Subhadipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sangham Namami. May you be well, Luang Por, and may your knee get better soon, so that you'll be globetrotting very soon and there with us in Asia in the next couple of months.
Let's see. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for organizing all of this, Darren, and everybody who helped support this. All best wishes. Nice to see you. Some of you I've been able to see and understand, and some of them I don't know. Thank you.